Yep, and we are now into the double digits of the show. Again, welcome back to Running with the Herd. I know we took a week off last week for fall break, but we are back here on this Monday, October 21st. It's going to be a little bit cool this morning. It's showing 47 degrees inside the studio, but don't be surprised because by the middle of the week, we're looking into the 90s once more. I thought this was, October. But anyway, welcome to Running with the Herd. This is brought to you by Reagan Auto, What About Bob's Restaurant, and Barlow Built Performance and Automotive. I'm your host, Brandon Green, the voice of the Buffaloes, and I'm here today alongside Coach Maddux, who is the strength and conditioning coach for McAlester. Coach, welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it, man.
So you're still relatively new to the role that you have now, but you've been in an administrative role for a little while. Before that, you were the offense coordinator over at the McAlester High School for the football team, but also you were in charge of powerlifting for a few years now. So how did this job come to be for you?
Well, I mean, I got to back up way far. My first year at McAlester, when I came here with Brian, and I don't even remember when it was. Another guy that was on staff and myself went to Brian and then to the SOUP and the AD, and we wanted to start district-wide strength and conditioning then. And so we went down and we went to a clinic, and I wasn't new to the profession, but newer to the profession. I've been at McAlester for 14 years now. So we went down and we come up with a plan, and it didn't work out. But when Singleton started talking about this was a possibility, and he called me about it, it was one of those things to where I loved my job. I loved the people I worked with at Parker. It was one of the best environments I've ever been around. But when you have a passion for something, and I'm not saying I don't just have a passion for education and things like that, but
probably your background has been in coaching for the longest time.
It has. From student teaching is what made me want to go into education, or not student teaching, I'm sorry, helping and subbing, and I helped with some teams around, over in the Hartshorn area, and it made me want to, I changed my major, I got back into it, so coaching is something I've done, my whole professional career, and it was, and honestly, the weight room is something that from the time I started coaching where I was at, I've been in charge of a weight room, no matter where I was at. And so it's something, you build a very specific skill set that you don't use a lot of places in life. And, when you feel like you get, pretty efficient at something and it's one of the things that you feel like you're pretty good at, when you don't use that, there's a void, There's a void.
Yeah.
Even though you love where you're at and what you're doing, there's a void.
So from the first time that, because it doesn't just happen overnight, when you had your first time, because you mentioned everywhere you've gone, you've been at the charge of the weight room, what was like the first day that you're in charge of the weight room, wherever you were? How was that first day for you? If you can go back to that day, because how did you get in charge of your first weight room?
Well, okay, so I've always been a huge football fan.
Okay.
So I followed recruiting, and this is funny because no one's ever asked me this before. So I followed recruiting, and there was this linebacker that OU was recruiting back in the day, and he ended up going, out on the West Coast. His name was Brian Cushing. And I was watching videos of the things that he would do in high school, and I saw videos of him a few years before, and he wasn't the same. So he had really changed. So I looked up, what he was doing. So I found this trainer in New Jersey, and it's funny because it all spirals off. No one's reinventing anything. There's a few methodologies of things you do, whether you're coaching football, doing offense or defense, or the weight room, or whatever you're doing. So you find something you believe in,
right? And
you see it work. And so I watched this guy train these kids, and he's training out of like an office in a gym, and or a closet in a gym. And so I watch his business grow, and I watch the things he's doing. And so then I go back and I'm looking at what methodologies is he using, because he didn't make it up either. He just adapted to what he could have. So it goes all the way back to really that. So when I did my student teaching, I was at Haleville, and I'm young, man. I'm like 23 or something, and we won state in powerlifting, and the kids did everything I wanted them to do. So it's funny because then I'm done with student teaching and I'm looking for a job, and I knew this guy from Eastern that had been in Texas, and he was at Panama at the time.
Yeah.
So I had a few different job offers, but when I went and visited with him, I just felt like it was the best thing for me, the things that we could do, what I could learn from him, because he knew football, so much football. And so when I got there, long story long, when I got there, the people that had been there before me there were these old manuals from the West Side Barbell, which is what Joe DeFranco, the guy that I was like trying to pattern what I'm doing after, was there. So I get these old DVDs and I'm diving into it, man.
Wow.
And you know, it was just something that I got a passion for, man, and I could see things that needed to be changed in the weight room, and you know, kids responded, and I was hooked, you know what I mean? And so then, you know, I'm with Daryl for 3 years at Panama, then we went to Crooked Oak for a year, I did it there, I did it at Hugo for a year, and then I got out of coaching, and I came back home, family stuff, and I actually didn't coach for a year. I didn't do any, I was working on construction, doing stuff, well, I kept running into Brian. And Brian's like, you know, how you go back and forth about jobs. Well, then it happened that actually before I went to Hugo, there was talks with Brian, and it didn't work out. Well, then after that, when I was here for a year, I mean, he's like, we may have some openings coming, and then I was with him, and he kind of saw the weight room a little different than me at first.
Yeah.
And you know, and then I said, and this was even before I took the job. When I was at other places, we would talk at weight meet. And I was like, just let me have it for 1 year. And if you don't like what we're doing, I'll do whatever you want to do.
Right.
Never had to have a conversation about it again. You know what I mean? We won a lot. We did a lot of things in football and powerlifting. And, I mean, it's just always worked out. But anyway, so that's where it came from for me. Right. I'm glad you asked me that question because no one ever has.
Well, hey, that's what I'm here for. Yeah. But I think a lot of people are excited, especially in the McAlester Athletics sphere, to see how passionate you are about the job that you do. What has been your philosophy for your strength and conditioning program?
Well, I mean, you know, it changes and it morphs because really this is the first, like before this position, the only hands that I have on football teams, track teams, whatever we were specifically coaching. So when I took, it was all about that. You know what I mean? Getting better for that specific sport.
Right.
So when I took this job and I'm thinking about it and I'm looking at, you know, the wide array of sports that I'm going to be doing and the athletes, it's very difficult to specify what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So when I took this job, it's about general strength, general conditioning, injury prevention, symmetrical. I mean, we spend so much time sitting at a desk on our phones. If you walk around and you look at people, their shoulders are all rolled forward. Well, what's that going to do? I'm going to have shoulder problems. So I'm trying to fix that. I'm trying to overcompensate that.
So not even looking at the weight room, you're looking at your day-to-day things
everything.
That you. Wow. Okay.
You got to look at everything. You got to look at how someone moves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to look at the way they walk, the way they bend when they squat, the way they look when they stretch, and it's not one of those things to where like a college strength and conditioning coach has. He works with the football teams separately. He works with this. There's hours and days when those guys come in. Well, for us, it's bam. I mean, we've got every sport in every hour. So it's an overall general fitness, injury prevention, strength program. I mean, that's the best way I can say it, man. And I mean, I want strong athletes. I want fast athletes. I want flexible athletes. That's something that we've really dove into this year is injury prevention, prehab and rehab. So, I mean, it evolves, it changes, you know what I mean? It really does, but being in shape and being mentally tough, being strong, is never something that's ever going to go out of style.
Right.
I'm never going to sacrifice that because I think that the weight room and strength and conditioning and grinding every day teaches you that. Right. Something that there's not a lot of other things that teach you that.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you're talking about all the different planning that you do for all these different sports, the general strength and conditioning and the like the injury prevention. How much time goes into this planning? Because it seems like it's a whole bunch.
It's funny because it's a lot. And for me, like, I'm a lifelong learner, man. Like, I'm constantly on stuff, looking at stuff, reading stuff. And you don't just, when I say that, you don't just pick up like a Men's Health or see something on Twitter and say, oh, that's really cool. It's got to fit your philosophy. It's because you only have so much time. Mm-hmm. Kids only have so much of an attention span. And so if you're going to add things, you got to take away. So it's trying to find the best thing that we can do every day because they're hooked up. When they're in there for that hour and a half, whatever we have them for, they're doing something every day. There's not an off day.
Right.
I mean, an off day consists of warming up, shoulder prehab, hip prehab, glute prehab, rolling out foam rollers, lacrosse balls. I mean, there's so many working parts of what we're doing, and that's for an in-season off day.
Right.
Off. When I say off, I mean not in the weight room.
Yes.
So when you're in off-season, you do all that, plus you're running and conditioning on top of it.
Right.
When you're lifting, and then you're going outside to roll out, use the foam roller, stretch. So there are so many things that go into it. And when I took the job, you know, I've told my wife horror stories because when I work with Brian, we're 7 days a week. When I work with James, 6 days a week. And from the time football starts, you're not home.
Yeah.
You're not home. You know, you're doing junior high, JV, freshman, varsity. Even whenever you're not doing it, you got practice. So, I mean, I've told her horror stories about it. And so then when I'm like, this is not quite the same. It's not quite the same. But I'm sitting there at home working on sheets and spreadsheets and percent charts. And, I mean, I try to make everything as easy as I can for everyone around us because I know it. I know the program. You know what I mean? And other adults are learning the program.
Right.
Kids have so much going on. They're not going to learn everything. They're just going to do what you ask them to do. And so there's a lot of planning and computer work that goes into it before we ever get down there.
Right.
But with that being said, once you get a base, you're not rewriting it every week.
Right.
You're just taking it, like I do them a month at a time.
Yeah.
And so when I do them for a month at a time, then it's just week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. And then it's just deciding how it all fits in because you got different schedules. You have different, I mean, it's just, there's a lot that goes into it as far as figuring out what day of the week fits where. And what you take out if you only have a 4-day week, that's another thing. So if we're playing off of a 5-day week and we have a 2-day week like last week, what do you do? You know what I mean? You have to, it's
something totally different for that,
yeah.
For those just joining us, we are here on Running with the Herd, brought to you by Reagan Auto. What About Bob's Restaurant and Barlow Built Performance Automotive. It is into episode 10. We're here with McAlester Strength and Conditioning Coach Austin Maddux. And before we go to our first commercial break, I want to ask you one last question here before we ask just some fun questions about you. So now you're into year 2.
Mm-hmm.
What has the difference been like that you've seen in our student athletes, and how have they responded to the new program that you've been implementing?
Well, for me, it's hard to sit and, like, I'm not that guy that, like, pats myself on the back or anything like that, but when I look at them, they look different. And that's what you should see. I mean, everyone thinks everything's a quick fix. Everything's a quick fix. I mean, for instance, the OU situation right now.
Yeah.
Fire so-and-so and it's going to fix everything.
Yeah.
Well, there's not an instant fix in the weight room especially.
Right.
I mean, for one thing, you're either strong or you're not.
I mean, look at people trying to lose weight and how much of a process that can be or to build muscle.
And it's all consistency, day after day, week after week, month after month. You don't just become elitely strong if you're not.
Right.
Now, not everybody's going to. So I'm not going to sit and sell a snake oil that I'm going to make everybody elitely strong. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
Some people are just predisposed genetically to get way stronger than others. But if I can take Brandon Green that benches 205 and I make Brandon Green bench 230,
let's go.
That's a better Brandon Green. If Brandon Green can knock 0.2 of a second, he may not be as strong as somebody else that's just genetic, but he's a better version of himself.
Right.
And when we're, like, in high school, we don't recruit. We don't go out and sit in living rooms and pull people. So we have the kids that are here. So I want to make every McAlester kid better. That's my goal. It's to make everyone that walks in the weight room, no matter what sport, what classification they are, I want them to constantly get better in some fashion, and not just get better, stay healthy. Not as many injuries.
Right.
Like, and that's one of the big things people think strength and conditioning is, well, how strong can I get? A lot of it's how long can I stay strong?
Mm-hmm.
How long can it doesn't matter how strong I am if I'm constantly hurt.
Right. Absolutely, Coach. I think we're going to take our first break, and our only break, and then we're going to go to just some questions about you. I think we covered all of our bases when it comes to strength and conditioning.
Perfect.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we move on?
Man, I can't think of anything. I mean, writing the program's one thing, but I mean, you could have Arnold come in here and give you his program he used for Mr. Olympia, but if the kids don't go hard, it's not going to matter.
Right.
So there's a lot of different methodologies of lifting. Like we said earlier, a lot of it's about the kids, man. A lot of it. More so than me making the program. They have to do it. They have to push hard every single day. So for me, I mean, one of the main things I just want to point out is how hard they've worked. And it's every sport.
Mm-hmm.
Every sport. I mean, no matter what, guys, girls, no matter what sport it is, I mean, everyone's buying in, and it takes time. Change is hard for some people. If you're not used to being in the weight room, it hurts. It's not fun.
Right.
It's not fun at all.
All right. There we go. We're going to take a break. Again, you're listening to episode 10 of Running with the Herd, brought to you by Reagan Auto, What About Bob's Restaurant, and Barlow Built Performance and Automotive. We will be back in 90 seconds.
Looking for a trustworthy automotive shop? Come see our technicians at Reagan Auto. Our trusted technicians work hard to get your vehicle needs taken care of in a timely manner. Here at Reagan Auto, we provide oil changes, tires, alignments, along with transmissions and engines. Stop by and see us at Reagan Auto at 306 East Wyandotte in McAlester to get a quote, or simply call 918-715-3236. That's 918-715-3236.
What About Bob's Restaurant, the home of Bob's Sunrise Surprise, is located at 610 North Main in McAlester. What About Bob serves up your favorite comfort food 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Go down and see Olivia and the gang for breakfast and lunch. What About Bob's Restaurant, open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Check them out on their Facebook page, What About Bob's, 610 North Main in McAlester.
Barlow Built Performance and Automotive is your full-service automotive repair shop, including brake work and heat and air repair. We do MIG and TIG welding. We're McAllister's only full-time exhaust shop. From race cars,
I'm going fast again!
to your grandma's cars.
What up, Grandma?
We do it all. We also sell tires and wheels. Barlow Built Performance and Automotive, 1 West Monroe Avenue in McAlester. Open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call 918-318-0323. Welcome back to Running with the Herd, episode 10, as that is brought to you by Reagan Auto, Barlow Built Performance and Automotive, and What About Bob's Restaurant. This is the voice of the Buffaloes, Brandon Green, alongside strength and conditioning coach Austin Maddux, as we are now have already spoken about a lot of the different things when it comes to the strength and conditioning program. And as we were talking about that, if you want to go back and watch it or listen to it, we are video streaming currently on YouTube at McAlester Radio's YouTube channel. You can also hear it on our website a little bit later on. That'll be posted probably by the end of the day at McAllisterRadio.com in the sports tab. Or you can also catch it on our podcast that we have on Spotify, the Buff Sports Radio podcast. So plenty of different ways. If you ever want to catch a coffee with the coach or running with the herd, those are all going to be there for you guys. So let's go to the fun part. I mean, it's all fun, but let's go to learning a little bit more about Coach Maddux. So we heard about your start in coaching, but why did you want to get started in coaching? Going all the way back to, we mentioned your first job, but what was the inspiration behind you wanting to become a coach?
Well, I mean, both of my grandparents were educators. My grandma taught 3rd grade in Hartshorn, and my grandpa taught like 9th grade civics or something. I don't want to lie to you that, but he coached girls basketball in Hartshorn for decades. And, you know, I would see people come back and his former players talk about how hard he was, but then they just constantly would come and see him and talk to him. And it was one of those things to where just, I was around it. I was around like parent-teacher conferences from a kid. I was around, and I'm not going to lie and tell you I wanted to be a teacher my whole life. I didn't. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't. So, but, I mean, sports is just something that, I mean, you're either into it or not. You know what I mean? From a very young age. And the older you get, the more you start talking about, you know, careers and things that you can do, not just a job, a career. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, it just kind of worked itself out that way.
All right, that's how it always happens. I was just speaking with another coach not too long ago, and it's always how, you know, I never thought I was going to become a teacher, or someone said I never thought I was going to become a coach, and now look at me, I'm 10 years into this, and it just becomes something that becomes a passion for you, or sometimes it's a first love thing, and sometimes it's something that grows on you that becomes something that sticks with you for the rest of your life.
Well, and I would lie to you if I didn't tell you it was an adrenaline-based situation. You know what I mean? My game plan and the way that I coach it's like human chess almost, or
it's
something.
A competition thing.
It's a competition, and can I get my kids to execute my game plan to be that guy over there? Yeah. And you get addicted to that feeling. I mean, you do.
Especially when you win. When you win, and you won a lot.
And when you lose, you don't get it. You're not. You know what I mean? But that kind of drives you to go harder. I mean, it's double-edged sword.
And then the cycle repeats itself
every year.
Yeah. So what are some of your hobbies outside of coaching?
Well, I mean, I work out. I mean, my wife and I work out quite often. I raise American bullies. It's not popular right now. I'm OU football fan. I mean, I have been forever, you know what I mean?
But we're in this together.
Right. But I mean, from someone who's around athletics all the time and played athletics, and then from coaching, you get there's so much more that goes into it than what's going on the field. You know what I mean? So,
well, Luke Combs said this year there ain't no love in Oklahoma, and in terms of collegiate football outside of UCO, he's telling the truth.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, you mentioned your wife. Tell us about your support system back home. This is your chance to brag on them a little bit here.
Oh, I mean, it's great, man. Greatest thing that ever happened to me. She, Erica Maddux, her name was Rugermer. I knew her growing up. She's a little bit younger than me. She works at Parker, actually. She teaches math at Parker. We got 3 kids. Our oldest daughter graduated last year. We got a senior this year, and then our son is 13. And I mean, I couldn't have taken this job and done, what I do and been good if I didn't have the support from them. I mean, it's great.
Awesome. Now, mentioning how hooked on sports you've been your entire life, what are some of your favorite sports memories? It could be as a coach, as a fan, whatever.
As a coach, 100,000%. I mean, the Carl Albert game here in the ice was one I'll never forget.
I was on the sidelines for that one.
Yeah.
I was videoing that one.
Hey, that was one of the last games that I spent on the sideline, and it's funny because it was, we were going through No Shave November, and so I've got a full beard. I reached up and grabbed my beard and had icicles in my beard.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, the sleet was coming in sideways, and we weren't supposed to win. We're supposed to lose that game. And I mean, it was just everything set up right. It was like the best week of practice of my career, probably. And I mean, that was a good one. Going and beating Deer Creek there was a big one because we wasn't supposed to beat them either, and we had to go there, and our headsets go out, and I mean, there were some.
I know the headsets went out.
They went out, yeah. The headsets went out.
So how did you guys go around that?
Okay, so it's funny. So we started out, so Mullins was in the box, and me and Cricket were signaling for him. Headsets go out, so we get AirPods out, and we're talking on the phone. So we did that for a drive at least. And I can't remember if we did it for 1 or 2, and it just wasn't working out. So he came down, and we just did everything from the sideline, which wasn't what we did. You know what I mean? But, I mean, it worked out.
And you still beat Deer Creek. Yeah. That's crazy.
And I'd like to tell you that the state championship game that I coached in was the fondest memory, but it was not.
I know. I'm sorry.
It was not.
Oh. Yeah, we're not going to talk about bad memories here. Yeah. Keeping everything positive, I guess, because that was my senior year, so I do remember that very vividly.
And then you know what, I've been fortunate enough for my teams to win, our teams, to win powerlifting a lot, and there were some really good ones. I mean, some times when we shouldn't have, you know what I mean? Like, the first time we ever won it was at Panama, and we really won it with 2 kids because everything fell perfect. It was a freshman and then a senior, and we had another kid that got some points, and that's one that sticks out to me, you know what I mean? Because we weren't supposed to that one either.
Right.
I mean, here, most of the time, people thought we were going to win when we won it, you know what I mean? But there, it was like, we were an afterthought.
Right.
And we ended up winning it, and that was the first one that I won, too, so it was a big one.
And it goes back to that competitive edge thing, where you say the whole adrenaline, can I get my kids better prepared than you can get yours?
Yeah, and stay calm under pressure. Because this kid's supposed to beat us, and he misses a lift.
Yeah.
And our kid's like, well, if we jump here, I said, just stay to the plan. Stick to the plan. Stick to the plan. Put pressure on him. And, I mean, it worked. You know what I mean? And it worked out. And, I mean, it could have easily not, but it did. So, I mean, that kind of started it all, you know what I mean? As far as winning it.
Right. Well, last one's always a fun one here. I thought this would be pretty interesting. As a strength and conditioning coach, which one do you prefer most when you work out? Arm day or leg day?
Arm day. Leg day hurts.
You'd be lying if you said differently.
You have to do it, but it's... When I talked about earlier, the weight room's not fun. If you could go do upper body every day, it would be fun.
It'd be fun, right?
Putting weight on your back or picking heavy weight up, it's not fun.
Yeah.
And those big muscles pump lactic acid. It's awful. It's awful. Yeah, so that's an easy one.
Yeah, there we go.
The easiest one.
There we go. Coach, anything else you'd like to add before we wrap it up here?
No, man, I just appreciate you calling and having me on, man. I mean, I can't thank, all the sports, all the coaches enough for embracing me into this. I mean, I feel like I'm on every staff. Every staff that's on, I feel that way about all of them, So, I mean, I just want to thank those guys. I mean, they coach their kids hard. They make them do what they're supposed to do. They hold them accountable, and I mean, that makes my job a lot easier.
There we go. Coach Maddux, thank you for stopping by, and can't wait to have you on next time.
Go Buffs.
Go Buffs, yes sir. That will be it for episode 10 of Running with the Herd. That's been brought to you by Reagan Auto, What About Bob's Restaurant, and Barlow Built Performance and Automotive. Until next Monday, same time, same place, Knuckleheads. Don't just have a great week, Have a Buffalo week, everybody. We'll hear from our commercial break one more time and then go to some George Strait for you.
Looking for a trustworthy automotive shop? Come see our technicians at Reagan Auto. Our trusted technicians work hard to get your vehicle needs taken care of in a timely manner. Here at Reagan Auto, we provide oil changes, tires, alignments, along with transmissions and engines. Stop by and see us at Reagan Auto at 306 East Wyandotte in McAlester to get a quote, or simply call 918-715-3236. That's 918-715-3236.
What About Bob's Restaurant, the home of Bob's Sunrise Surprise, is located at 610 North Main in McAlester. What About Bob serves up your favorite comfort food 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Go down and see Olivia and the gang for breakfast and lunch. What About Bob's Restaurant, open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Check them out on their Facebook page, What About Bob's, 610 North Main in McAlester.
Barlow Built Performance and Automotive is your full-service automotive repair shop, including brake work and heat and air repair. We do MIG and TIG welding. We're McAllister's only full-time exhaust shop. From race cars,
I'm going fast again!
to your grandma's cars,
What up, Grandma?
we do it all. We also sell tires and wheels. Barlow Built Performance and Automotive, 1 West Monroe Avenue in McAlester. Open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call 918-318-0323.